European countries, they already know the ways. It's very similar laws. If you're in EU, basically you have the same laws. Market entry is quite easy. But Nigeria, Africa, it's much harder,
Yeah.
and people have ideas of how to go about it, but it's also very opaque in a way. It's very hard to get realistic information. You only hear the bad. And I was quite vocal about it, wrote it in a few papers, and then I got a call, from the Ministry of Trade, or what we call Ministry of Economy and Employment, that, well, you've been doing a lot of talking. Why don't you go and open a trade center in Nigeria? And I was like, okay, maybe. I didn't know that anybody was listening, but I guess somebody was, and I took the job to be the Trade Commissioner for Finland in West Africa.
Hello. How are you, man?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Wow. I'm good. Now, you know one of my very, very good friend, Biodun Ogulabi.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I've been chatting with him for the last hour on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Okay.
He and I went to the same school and went to the same university at the same time.
Interesting. Interesting. Small world.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. I haven't seen him for a while, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest, yes, I haven't seen him for a while.
When I first reached out to you, I saw you were connected on LinkedIn, and I asked him.
Yes.
He told me, you have done things together. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, how are you, man?
Yeah. I'm good. You know how Lagos is draining, but also how would I say inspiring at the same time. You see so many possibilities and so many things to do, and the work is never done, and it's almost like sometimes against all odds you keep on moving forward.
Yes. See, that's what is inspiring in Nigeria and Africa. See, we have too many things to do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you might, when you look at it at some time, sometimes you might think too many things, and we haven't started. How would it get there? But we get there one step at a time.
Yeah.
You see, my what I wish is that we'll inspire enough young people to take up one thing or the other. See, if we have millions of young people taking up different things, in no time, we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. Olu, thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So introduce yourself to my audience. Tell them who you are and what you do.
Okay. So my name is Olu Raheem. I guess I would say my main job at the moment is being the chief executive of LC Technology Limited. We have 3 offices. We have one office in Finland, one in Nigeria, one in the UK. And we're into digital customer acquisition, which means, from generating leads to finance and real estate industry to, providing digital tools for more efficient customer management. So that's in a nutshell.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, see, just to piggyback on that, see, I want you to tell us a little bit about your life, about your career, and how you got to this place.
Yes, I think yes. It's my first question almost will be to how many hours do we have?
so give us the condensed one.
I'll give you the condensed version. So usually I'm also sometimes faulty about being a salesman, and salesmen, they tend to like their own voice. So that's sometimes my problem. So please stop me when needed. But like I said, my name is Olu Raheem, and I would say, interestingly enough, I was born and raised in Finland.
Oh, okay.
My parents went to Finland in the 70s to study for a course. And they were supposed to be back in a few months, but they decided staying. And I was born and raised, and my early school life was spent in Finland. I moved to Nigeria as a teenager. I think I was about 12 or 13. I visited during that time, but we now moved back as a family to Nigeria, and I got to experience Nigeria fully as a teenager.
Yeah,
wonderful, wonderful years, and stories upon stories upon stories, and then went back to further my education, to do my university back in Finland.
Okay.
I studied biotechnology. I started with biotechnology, realized that I might not be the best person to work in a lab, so decided to get into business administration. Applied to a business school, got in, but I still finished both sciences, or the both applications. So I finished my biotechnology, did masters in that, and did also masters in business admin. And and after school, I mean, I got into the work life quite early, and well, like I said, you said the condensed version.
Yes.
So I think the first business I started in was actually during school. I got into entertainment. I got into music management. It was one of those things that I was just lucky. Had a bit of success there doing events, music events in Finland. Did that for a few years. At the same time, when I graduated, now I got into the pharmaceutical world, which in a way was a combination of the two things I did: biotechnology and business administration, and being more on the commercial side of things. Did that for 3-4 years, from different sales roles to different product manager roles. It was an international engagement, worked for an English company. So it was a wonderful experience. But even at then, I already had a passion of, kind of being an entrepreneur. I wanted to make a change. I wanted to effect change. So I had a few friends from school that started a consulting company a few years back to that time, and I decided to join them in this consulting business. During the consulting business, was kind of a foray back to Nigeria for me. We had local clients, we had international clients, and there was one of the international companies that, had some activities in Nigeria. And they said that, oh, we're working with you guys. You guys have worked with us in different countries. Why don't you guys help us with this case in Nigeria? They were a technology supplier to the oil and gas industry. But they didn't really have almost like a service outfit for their business, and they were looking into who to partner with and how to get that up and going. So I mean, I told them that yes, I mean, I'm from Nigeria, my parents are from Nigeria, but I don't have any business experience of Nigeria. I lived there when I was a teenager and secondary school, and I was taken care of by my parents. So it's very different. But they were like, well, we don't know Nigeria either. At least you are Nigerian. Yes, you look like them. Just go. And they basically threw me to the deep end. And I quickly found out that Nigeria was, as a business environment, very different from what I was used to in Europe. And I think I started being quite vocal about it. It was also a rise where Finland had different trade centers in different countries, and I was quite vocal about it, that it's places like Nigeria, places in Africa that really need support for Finnish businesses. That European countries, they already know the ways. It's very similar laws. If you're in EU, basically you have the same laws. Market entry is quite easy. But Nigeria, Africa, it's much harder, and people have ideas of how to go about it, but it's also very opaque in a way. It's very hard to get realistic information. You only hear the bad. And I was quite vocal about it, wrote it in a few papers, and then I got a call, from the Ministry of Trade, or what we call Ministry of Economy and Employment, that, well, you've been doing a lot of talking. Why don't you go and open a trade center in Nigeria? And I was like, okay, maybe. I didn't know that anybody was listening, but I guess somebody was, and I took the job to be the Trade Commissioner for Finland in West Africa. This was late 2010, and the assignment was to come and be in Nigeria for 2 years, open the office, get it running, and potentially then go back to my consulting business later. And 13 years later, I still found myself in that position.
Wow.
And I think one of the reasons was that there was so much to do. There were so many new things to learn. Weekly, you would work with new companies, new industries. So it was almost like every year you almost like started again, and you could really offer concrete help and get to know the best of both sides, and really kind of see the rise of a lot of European companies in Africa, like the new wave of engagement, which I think a lot of European companies experienced, 2010 forward. So ended up being there 13 years, finally decided that, it's time to get back to the private sector and see, if I still have it in me to do something else. And, that was my pathway into IT and a few other sectors.
Wow. I mean, I can imagine. I think the job working as the Trade Commissioner must have been exciting.
Yes,
that's the way I look at it, because I know for a fact I used to work in banking in Nigeria, in City, and we had big commercial enterprises that do big trade in Africa, in Nigeria, and other. I mean, I know it's difficult, challenging, but exciting.
Yes.
See, and that's what gives me hope that people like you and many others will step into that place and see opportunities. Yes, they will have challenges, but the excitement of doing something, of achieving something, will push them forward.
Yes.
So I'm just
we've seen a lot of that, and even then, I mean, I remember coming into Nigeria, and of course it was still the heydays of Nokia, which is a Finnish company, and Nokia was moving fast. I mean, the most sold phone in Nigeria was Nokia.
Me too. I had two.
Everybody had one, and the second most sold phone in Nigeria was the fake Nokia.
Wait, Ericsson, is that Finnish too?
Ericsson is Swedish.
Okay, Swedish. Okay.
Yes.
But, so Nokia, Ericsson were popular.
Yes. So but Ericsson crossed into the infrastructure of telecoms earlier, and Nokia kind of now followed later when iPhone and others came with with the real competition. But it was such an exciting time.
I mean, thinking about how a company like Nokia ended. It's I mean, I can't imagine why they didn't see what was coming.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an interesting story. I guess if I look at it, also fairly objectively, and also from the Finnish perspective, it's one of those companies that the success, yes, it was expected, but not on that scale. I mean, Nokia single-handedly transformed Finland's economy and put Finland on the map, and the exports were mainly mainly Nokia. And of course, I mean, Nokia is still there. Let's not forget, you know,
Yeah.
it's a big player in the infrastructure sector, you know, probably one of the biggest
really? Okay.
infrastructure
So
when it comes
that's
to,
something
yes,
we don't know.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
When it comes to telecoms infrastructure, you know, so
Oh.
but it's not a household name. So when it comes to 4G, 5G, I mean, you know, it's still, you know, a lot of, you know, Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei that are really
that's good. That's good to know.
competing there. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but of course, as it's not a consumer product, you have to be in the industry to know. But it was such a phenomenal success. And I also believe that, you know, it's almost like every good thing comes to an end. You know, how long can you elongate that your success span? But it was such a phenomenal story for Finland, and you know, they had the touchscreen technology before Apple. They had it years before. But from the market studies they did, there was like nobody wants
oh my
God. That, you know, you want a better camera, you want this, you want that, you want more battery life. That's what, you know, the market surveys were saying. You know, so and if you remember when iPhone came, it had a worse camera, it didn't even function properly, you know, but you know, for some reason it was almost like this sexy product that everybody wanted. And then of course, you know, the app stores and the ecosystem and everything, you know, kind of just transformed the whole business model.
Apple built everything. The ecosystem was magical. I mean, the only Apple product I have is an iPod. It's not dead. It doesn't work anymore. But I'm not an Apple consumer per se. Apart from that, now I do what's it called? Samsung. Yeah, I've had it. I have 2 or 3 Samsung now. See what happened to Nokia on the consumer side. It's a lesson for many.
Definitely is. It's a delivery. And coming to Nigeria, of course, which wasn't very popular in Northern Europe, was also, you know, BlackBerry.
Yes.
You know, it was BlackBerry was so big in Nigeria then, and I remember transitioning myself into using, you know, BlackBerries, and I found it fantastic. You know, it was nice to write emails with, but the same thing, everything just disappeared, and all of us were forced to use touch screens, you know, suddenly. And now I don't think, you know, anybody can even imagine anything else. That's how innovation and life is.
The younger generation cannot even imagine that.
Yes.
And just a few decades ago.
Yeah, it's not, you know, it's just right there. I remember it like yesterday. So that's life and innovation. Yes.
The first time I reached out to you, that was last year. Sometime last year. You were still the Trade Commissioner for Finland in West Africa.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now, trade is one of the biggest things that Africa needs to do more and better.
Yes.
Okay. So you just talked about a few things that in that position you were involved in, but see, tell me more. What are the vantage positions that more European-based companies can look at to get into the African market?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of course. I mean, I was directly involved, and Finland being a part of EU, you know, we also look at it from a very European, you know, perspective. And I'm a strong believer on you know, European African trade, and I see, you know, a lot of positive history. Of course, there is, you know, a lot of history. Some of it, you know, not very pretty, of course, laying back to the colonial ties. But we have that history, you know, culture-wise, you know, we understand each other, you know, even language-wise, you know, most of us, we speak European languages.
One African, European language,
Exactly. Even time zone-wise, we are in the same time zone. So we really don't have, any excuse, and they're fairly close to us. So we really don't have any excuse, and I think there is a lot of natural elements that we see. I think a big discussion and the movement that we've seen within the last few years and even a decade is just to find almost like a better balance.
Okay.
That is a bit more favorable to
both sides.
To Africa. Yes, especially to
Africa.
African. Yes. And that direction, has started. I mean, definitely, there's still, a lot of issues. EU is, pushing, like the proper adoption of the European Partnership Agreement still going on, and we really haven't seen the full adoption of that, but it's moving to the right side, and and I think also when the I would say production capabilities of Africa and able to also harness their raw materials and also develop them further. We see these opportunities, going. So, the globe is now a small village,
Yes.
through different sources of communication and informations. I remember being a young person in Finland, one of the only fruits you could find in a supermarket was a banana. But now, you have everything, all the African fruits are represented, and everybody has acquired that taste, so, and we see the same thing happening in culture, in clothing, in music. I mean, Afrobeat seems to be the biggest genre everywhere in the
right
world
now. Yes.
now. So we see that interest is there, that genuine love is there. Is really just to find a balance and make it more favorable to all the parties.
Now you are in the tech industry.
Yes.
Now, one of the biggest issues in tech is intellectual property.
Yes, IPR.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, that's where I think, maybe I'm wrong, but this what I think, that's where we in Africa are still lacking.
Yes,
we don't own a lot of intellectual property.
Yes.
And the West, America in particular, and the EU, people in those regions own a lot of intellectual property.
Yeah.
Now, how can we in Africa ensure that we'll be able to continue using those properties that we are bought, or we are leased, or I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I think it all boils down to negotiation, and if you look at history of intellectual property rights, it's I mean, all are man-made arrangements at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true.
And the reason why US and Europe kind of went very hard on it and became quite strict with the rights was also to promote innovation. And that's definitely something that we in Africa need to do. And I think it even starts just from respecting property rights within the continent, and what either of do and recognizing and enabling, because I mean, in many discussions, even you meet so brilliant people, especially young people, and it doesn't even cross their mind to patent or look at their property rights. They're just like, I just want to get it out there. If it helps someone, provides value, I can make money. And sometimes when this same thing now gets to the hands of a European or a US counterpart, they just register
Patents.
and kind of own the rights. So definitely awareness. I think also developing an intra-African system.
Yeah, okay.
And then really being able to also kind of defend it, because there's a lot of history in it. And if you really look at the history of, of course, I mean, I have a bit of experience from the pharmaceutical world, but even the early drugs, we know that many of these plants that were now synthesized in the labs, they actually came from Africa.
Yeah.
We know that a lot of the European innovations, came from China,
Yeah.
So it's almost like how far back, do you want to go? But of course, in most cases, people start counting when it's favorable to them. So I think we in Africa coming together as a collective, understanding our rights, understanding the application, and also kind of maybe dealing with, maybe such not that, comfortable past, and coming into a position of negotiation that, okay, we understand, but this as a continent, this is what we're pushing for. This is how we want to respect the property rights, but it's definitely in a modern day, it's a base for innovation. So we need those policies in place sooner or later.
Trade, like I said, it's essential, and whenever people hear, oh, this country and this country are trading, most of us just assume the trade is between governments. Yeah. But you and I know it's between two parties.
Yes.
From the countries, or two companies from the countries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And less of government to government. Okay?
Yes.
Now, I don't know if our society has developed enough entrepreneurs and companies to match with our European trade partners. Yes. And what are your views on this?
Yeah, well, I think you're completely right. I think the starting points are, also very different. If you look at the products and services, are also very different. You see, most European, most American, companies, you see, they are really into the finished goods, finished technology.
Yeah.
If it's, or something that has to do with brand, France sells a ridiculous amount of, spirits in Africa, especially in Nigeria. It's one of the biggest export countries for champagne. And I don't think anybody has really looked into, could we go similar type of grapes in Nigeria or in Africa? But basically, we know that it's been banned. I mean, South Africa is doing quite well in wines and other, but it's only grapes from the Champagne region that you can call champagne. So that's where we come to the intellectual property rights.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
Back to it. So I really see that there is a lot to kind of do. European industrialization happened, much earlier, but I believe that we're able to, hop some of these development paths. It shouldn't take us 100 years or 200 years. The technology is there, the information
it's not only there, it's mature.
Yes, is mature, so it's there to be taken, and then again, I think a lot of the when it comes to also the standardization, there's a lot of rules that have developed over time, even sometimes over centuries in Europe on what they want, and we sometimes find that African counterparts have a bit of difficulty to match, some of these, standards. But I also, create, Africa should also, push for their own standards. And because at the end of the day, a lot of standards were also, they're human decided standards. And where Africa has been able to create their own standards, we see them thriving. And that's, going back to the culture, going back to the fashion, going back to the music, which, there is no European standard for music. So, anywhere in the world, this is Burna Boy, this is Wizkid, this is Tiwa Savage, and you listen and you enjoy. And I see kind of a bit of a similar thinking needed also when it comes to, technology, when it comes to, finished goods, when it comes to agricultural products. It doesn't always have to be, that particular standard. Good enough, do it in an African way, and really coming together and kind of having how would I say, similarity in the policy in different African countries. Because even till now, even though, we complain about sometimes I would say, inter-European trade, it's harder to, export within Africa. That is, to export to Europe or Asia or US. And I always wondered to myself that how can it be harder to export to our neighbors? So there's a lot of, things to do to harmonize in our laws. And of course, there's certain agencies and things that are promoting that, but I don't think and I don't feel we're moving fast enough.
Yeah. See, imagine the difficulty moving goods from Nigeria to Benin, Togo, to reach Ghana. I mean, the distance is not more than 500 kilometers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you can drive within 4 hours.
Yes.
But in Africa, it will take you how many days?
It probably to move goods with all the checkpoints.
So there are two things. The infrastructure in terms of the roads are not there. Two, the custom checks.
Yes.
Now, like I say, I'm not a Pan-Africanist. I'm a pro-Africa, okay? But I'm not Pan-Africanist because there are some things I don't agree at the moment. So that's it. But I want as much integration as possible.
Yes.
And Africa cannot integrate if the infrastructure for travel is not there.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you need to get a visa, okay, even if the travel from one country to drive from Nigeria to Togo to Benin to go, and I mean, it should not be something you need to start thinking about 2 weeks before. I should be able to wake up on one Saturday and gather some friends and say, hey, let's go to see a friend in Ghana this weekend.
Yeah, just like you do in Europe. You can decide on a Thursday that I want to spend my long weekend in another country and you go. So yes, definitely, there's been thinking behind it, but you find out that a lot of these policies and laws are to protect, but they're not to promote.
Okay.
And it should be the double P. It should be to protect and promote. But a lot of times in Africa, especially when it comes to inter-African movement and trade, we forget to promote. We're just protecting. And of course, if you are a local business, you will say that, oh, I don't want goods from Ghana. And the Ghanaian business will say, I don't want goods from Nigeria. Then let's make it hard for them to come in. But at the end of the day, it is not moving the needle forward as Africa comes concerned. And, we've seen what has happened in the US, in the North America. We've seen what's happened in Europe. We know these things, So why, do we want to, go through the hard way? It shouldn't take wars for us to realize that collaboration and cooperation always wins competition.
Now, see, local businesses trying to secure their markets by keeping the outsiders in check is not good for the consumers. It's not good for business building in the region, in the country and the region. See, we need to think about this. I don't know if we need to do this on a governmental level, but it seems that the only thing that works for Africa is the government must come in first to tell you what to do. And that's a problem for me. You see, a business doing something and is not efficient, is not giving the customer value, and someone else can do it better than you, well, for me, that business should close and go and do something else.
Yeah. I mean, there's a level of protectionism in every country and every
Yes.
market.
Okay.
But like I said, the important word is level. You know, you can't just shut competition off and allow you to work in silos. I mean, that's how monopolies are created.
Yeah.
And just like you said, it never favors the overall development and client. And you find out that at one day the competition will come one way or the other, and they will ram you over. You need to be able to compete, and you need to be able to find your strengths.
Yes.
Company and government should back and support their local industries, but to an extent. There needs to be competition so everybody can develop and move forward. That's the only way.
Yeah. For Africa to go where we think it should get, there's a need for integration a lot. Without integration, we not have the power of the consumer to help us build companies that produces things at massive levels.
Yeah.
And then China, Europe, America will continue going from country to country selling their own products. Meanwhile, we have that same product or similar product from one African country, but cannot sell to other African countries.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We see that today already. So when a world or your competition is integrated and you are not, you can't win. It's just like a single man playing against a football team. It doesn't matter. Even if you're a Messi or Ronaldo, you can't win against a team of 10 or 11. And that is what is happening, because it's not only integration in trade, but it's integration in finance, is integration in export support, export promotion, investments, everything. So we need intra-African integration.
Yeah. So how can now African countries penetrate the EU market? And what particular products do you think we can leverage on to start doing that?
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned earlier on, we already seen some African products, sweep the European market, especially when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to culture, and this is happening without government support. That's what I always tell people, that it's regardless, government being there and even knowing about it. I mean, we have the kind of figures, I'm hearing from some of my friends that are in the business of, these tours, what they're making a year, surpass, whatever goods and commodities we're exporting. But even when we now go back to a bit more traditional, goods, for example, agricultural goods, you already know from just the mere fact that, the way you can grow things in Africa, it's unique. I've had European scientists visit here. I remember very well a Danish farmer scientist that visited Nigeria, and he said that this is unbelievable, that I can get 4 different harvests in a year from this soil. Meanwhile, back in North Europe, I can manage to get one. But because they only do that one, the efficiency they apply to getting that one harvest is magnificent. But, the guy was like, he doesn't understand why we don't do more, because we're so kind of used to the subsistence farming that, yes, this fruit or this vegetable or this food crop is seasonal.
Yeah.
But why does it have to be seasonal? We have the science, we have the technology. You can have 4 or 5 harvests a year. And this is something that we can now export that is in high demand. I
Yes.
mean, when it comes to food, it's a forever business, you know.
Oh, yeah.
As long as, you know,
Human beings
doesn't put the chip on our head that we don't need food anymore, we're going to be eating. And the taste buds of the global community, you know, have been, you know, opened. People want different foods. I'm learning about some African foods when I listen, you know, when I visit Europe. They are the ones telling me that, oh, this is a superfood because it contains this and this and this. I'm saying that this grows in my backyard. What are you talking about? And the same thing that spoils here, they sell it for me for 10 or 15 euros, you know, in a small 10 or 100-gram pack. You know, so the business already is staring at our face. But just like I said, we really need to kind of up our game when it comes to standardization. I know that EU is working with quite a few Nigerian companies and that, but, you know, of course, recognize and realize what the standards are, being able to do it efficiently. We definitely need, you know, support for if it's agriculture, for the farming to be mechanized and efficient enough. So, you know, the margins are also good. I mean, we see a lot of exports already, but we found what we see even in Europe is that, you know, it's from pineapple to cocoa to this to that. You know, they almost have like hub countries that they go to. And from there, like the processed version, maybe it's juice concentrate, or maybe it's the pre-chocolate concentrate, now goes to other countries. And of course, I see that why don't we go up the value chain, you know, just to make the margins better. And it should be a no-brainer, you know, it should be easier to have your production plant near the farm. It should be cheaper. We have abundant sun. We should have cheaper energy, which we don't have yet, but we should, you know, based on, you know, all the natural materials, including sun, wind, and water that we have in abundance. So it should be. So we really, I think, you know, almost like forward integration, you know, move up the value chain, understand the policy framework and standardization framework of EU, and also, in a way, also put in creating brands. And I think that is something that the entertainment industry and the fashion industry has learned very well. Yes, you can always fight, you know, on quality, or this cotton is better than this. But when you create a brand, you know, it subsedes all that. And I think, you know, we have the opportunity to create brands when it comes to, you know, food, when it comes to technology, that, you know, African brands and African products is something that we should be proud about. You know, there's long been a notion that, oh, maybe they're inferior quality. But just like I said, in entertainment, we've seen that they can be even more appreciated than, you know, than even their own local products, or in this case, artists. So why couldn't we do it in other categories or in other industries?
No, I mean, even when issues about quality happen, see, we should not forget that once upon a time, we consider anything in China as inferior. We consider anything from Taiwan as inferior. Today, they are the go-to products that people want.
Yes.
So we start from somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, and push it harder and harder and harder until we make a lot of more improvements. And voila.
I think China is a perfect example. I mean, you see what they're doing even in aeroplanes, and what they're especially doing in electric cars. You can see that, you know, the US and Europe, they're panicking because the cars that are coming out are better, they're cheaper. Of course, some people will say that, oh, it's a matter of, you know, opinion, but clearly they're panicking, you know, putting extra tariffs. If you are sure that your cars are much better, open the market, let them compete. Oh, they said, oh, you know, they're giving government subsidies, but so are you, you know. So China, it's a wonderful example. I always remember, even as a child, you know, there was at some point, it was made in Hong Kong. you know, and it was like, oh, that's the inferior, the thing that will break is cheap and it will break. You know, I don't think Hong Kong even produces anything anymore. It's just the financial hub.
Yeah.
And then it was made in China, but now, you know, you go to China, you even the best companies do their products there. Just like you mentioned, the Apples and the Nokias, and you know, that's where they manufacture.
Yeah. So the same thing I would like to ask you about Europe coming into Africa. Now, see, like we have just talked about, we have more difficulties, hurdles to cross in Africa. It's not only about the infrastructure or the policy basis on which we trade, but Africa is so diverse, and not only in people, culture, but also in the things different places in Africa want. Okay, so how can European companies penetrate the African market, and what products can they focus on in Africa?
Yeah, well, I think when you look at the African market in general, I think the logic for it is clear. You know, of course, Europe and Europeans, they've had this trading culture for centuries. You know, from the Spanish and the Portuguese, you know, explorers and stuff. You know, crossing the waters to different places. So the culture has been there. And of course, we've also seen saturation of markets, you know, so, you know, a lot of European, you know, markets have already been conquered. There's competition. And you find out that there's very few continents. You know, Africa is probably the only thriving continent with a proper population. I don't count North Pole and South.
India too.
You know?
India too.
Yeah, and India too. But even India is
India, Nigeria, Africa is very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very similar. So they are one of these hubs that they are still not that well explored. You know, they are growing. Their tastes are developing. It's easier to become a standard in an industry just because, you know, the industry is still young, you know, and we see that in a lot of places. I remember my professor in business school was always say that, you know, it's good to be a strong brand, but even better is to be a standard. And you know, and Africa is one of those places, like you can come to a market, you can come to an industry, and actually you can still become a standard. Like they're operating like, okay, like yes, there was something existing, but you can actually take over and become a standard. Just like you said, Africa is very, you know, diverse, you know, different languages, different cultures. I think it is also key to understand, you know, the local market and the local needs, which I think it's common sense, but you also see a lot of people making this mistake, and maybe it's a bit of high-hatedness that, okay, we have this product, it worked wonderfully in Europe, it worked well in Asia, it worked well in US, it should work well in Africa. But you know, you always have to customize, understand the locality, their needs, their customs, and really customize it for the local needs. But I think, you know, Europe has waken up. They might not be doing enough. I personally think they should be doing more. Sometimes a bit of the baggage might also be that, you know, because our industries have developed over centuries, we're looking for the same type of sophistication in Africa, or in this case, maybe in Nigeria. But you find out that some of these things that surround the ecosystem is not there. So you find out that sometimes you come into an industry, you actually have to take responsibility of the ecosystem. You know, you can't just come that I have this niche product that I want to this market, or a fintech product, I just want it. You have to understand that can the ecosystem support, this product or service or not. And then, of course, comes questions of finance, comes questions of, are you living in, you have experience of the banking world when you live quarter by quarter. And Africa is not really a place where, you want to do quarter bookkeeping. You have to look at a bit longer that I'm going to be here for a couple of years before things actually start moving. But the interest is there. I know that the policies are there. What I believe is that when it becomes more of a win-win situation for both parties and the goods and services flow back and forth, it also means that those routes would, have open less friction. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So for people like me, and well, for you too, you're still African in diaspora. Okay, even though you are more in Nigeria than I am. What roles do you think we need to play for this massive journey that Africa is taking?
Yeah, I think and I believe that diaspora is one of the secret weapons that a lot of African countries have. Most of us are very emotional about Africa.
See, that is the language most Africans will get emotional even listen to you say
that. So we're emotional about home. We understand the potential. We've seen the other side work, and most of us believe that we can actually have an impact, a positive impact in the system. I think it's a collaborative effort for the people that are in the African countries and the diaspora to find platforms where these skills and knowledge of the diaspora, can be, properly used and taken into consideration. I mean, all of us know, a lot of, negative stories about, people wanting to do something and for some reason they were not allowed to, or, there wasn't enough, kind of general interest or something. But, especially when you take, just for example, Nigerians, I mean, you go to almost any country in the world, first of all, there is a Nigerian.
Yeah.
And you usually find a Nigerian that is doing quite well. Being it a physician, a doctor, being it an engineer, even being it a lawyer, being a businessman, you always find
business
a Nigerian
owners, all would do everything.
Yes. So though these people are already entrenched in the system, understand the system, in a way, these guys should also, almost be like our licensed ambassadors, to find the ways how we can intertwine, kind of our business societies together. And I believe that there is a lot of interest to do it. I don't think we found, the right platforms yet. Of course, I would say that there's still a bit of leadership issues in a lot of, African countries that also, in a way, overshadow the interests, because, sometimes you get bombarded with so much negative news that even though, you feel emotional and you have positive impact, you're like, well, I don't want to waste my time. Nobody wants to waste their time. So really finding the right platforms, and just like you said, potentially taking a bit government out of the equation, but willing business people, in the home countries, willing diaspora, finding platforms to work together and push the collective forward. So there's a lot of hope in that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe we will have a lot to contribute. Yes, we have challenges. I mean, I know a lot of people, including me, who have tried to do something back home. And for me, the partners I picked, when I came to this country, after 2 years, I started telling my friends, hey, we need to go back home.
Yeah.
Because all I've seen is that these people I work with every day, they're not smarter than me.
Yeah.
They're not smarter than the people I work with in Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I told my friends, these people built this country. Okay, we need to go back and build a country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember going, even in Finland, I remember going to school. I had, Chinese exchange students. I had, Chinese colleagues. And there was a systematic way. It was almost like many of them didn't stay for more than 2 weeks after graduation. And, of course, even some of them I still keep in touch. And they're like, okay, I'm about to graduate. Okay, what are your plans? They're like, I have a job when I go home. And this was the late 90s, early 2000s.
Well, that used to happen in Nigeria before.
Yeah. So I have a job that when I applied and got in, they already mapped out a plan for me where I can come and develop that ecosystem at home.
Yeah.
And so it was a very strategic and intentional approach. And sometimes we see that, a lot of African countries, miss that. We graduate, we look for work, but there's no systematic way of, in this case, maybe inviting us, home. I know that there's been a few programs, but, at the end of the day, we don't have much to show for it.
Anyway, we need to do more. We need to do more.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, oh yes, in fact, you talked about it earlier. Leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think about our leaders for them to catch up with where we as citizens are moving towards? Because it looks like our leaders, our political leaders, are not driving on the same path we are.
Yeah.
We are going north, they're going west.
Yes.
What I mean,
I have a few friends that always, when sometimes they want to say something, criticize it or critical, they will just say that I'm joking, if anybody's listening.
Oh, see,
but we have quite a bit to do. I would say, to be very, very honest, and I think I've been, I would say quite vocal about it. I've also granted, some interviews being vocal about it, and the reality also is, I mean, there's a saying that leaders are the reflection of the people.
Okay.
And when I talk about leaders, especially maybe in the Nigerian context, it's not, only the political leaders, but the people that influence them, and the leaders, they always come from a certain stock of the society, so from the elite, from the, small middle class or wherever, that mentality needs to change. I think many African countries, they need a good dose of sense of belonging and just togetherness. And that's what I see a lot in European, countries. Everywhere has its issues, everywhere has its problems, but they understand that this is the only house, this is the only home we have. And if we do not take care of this home or house, we are not going to have anywhere to live.
Yeah.
We can visit somewhere, but this is home. And sometimes when you see Africans behave, they don't behave like this country is their home. And because if it was, you would take care of it.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
You would make sure that it works. You make sure that the door opens. You make sure that it's clean. That's where you sleep. You wake up. You spend most of your time in. You would just not treat it like somewhere that you're visiting for a day, or a hotel room where you know that, oh, somebody will clean up after me.
Yeah.
So that mentality really needs to change. And I think also having a bit of foresight and thinking long term. I talk with some of my, Chinese friends, and they talk about 100-year plans, 500-year plans. I remember in Nigeria when I came late 2010, we had this vision 2020, but I think along the way, everybody just forgot about it, but these kind of, structural mandates that actually are put in place, we really need them. And then we need leaders that can, lead us, be in the front, show us the way, not to tell us something and do something else behind the closed doors. So because like the potential is there. We've seen what has happened in China. We've seen what is going on in India for development. We've seen what has gone on in some of the Middle Eastern countries. And we have more resources than all these countries combined. We have the arable land, we have the mineral resources, we have the talent, we have the young population, we have the, capacity to do anything. And it begs the question, why are we not doing it?
Okay. Wow. That's a question we'll leave for now. Okay. But all of us will continue thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you some of my favorite questions. Now, it's like you see, I have books there.
Yeah.
Books here. Yeah. There are books there everywhere. Book. Okay. I love to read. Okay. And I love to encourage my listeners, my viewers to read. So I ask my guests to recommend 5 books for my audience.
Yeah. I'm really jealous of your library. I think the past couple of years I've been moving quite a bit. So it's always like when you move, that's one of the worst things. If you have a lot of books, it's always
get Audible.
It's a hassle.
Get Audible. When you're flying, instead of watching a movie, put your audiobooks in.
So I was coming to that. So audio is actually, I've been doing quite a bit of audio because of traveling to places. Then when you travel, especially in Lagos, from one place to another, you have traffic. So that's the best time to enjoy these books. But to go to some of these books, I think I have some classics that I like to visit regularly. I really like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Yes. So that's my go-to. Almost every few years I go back and I always pick up something new. I like a lot of work from Nassim Taleb. I think Anti-Fragile is one of my favorites.
I just ordered it. Have it somewhere. All the books on this side I haven't read, but they're here. Okay. So
fantastic book, and I think especially for the African mind is something to really
for young people.
Yes.
I mean,
to something
all of them think you're not eggs. Okay.
Yes. and you have to build the capacity along the way. One book is a fairly new book written by a Lebanese immigrant in Nigeria, African Odyssey of a Lebanese immigrant.
Very good. I will get that book.
Yes,
definitely.
Wonderful account of basically born in Nigeria, but to a Lebanese family, and really rising into the almost like the epitome of business success.
So what's the title again?
African Odyssey of a Lebanese immigrant.
Very good. I will get this, and I encourage all my listeners, all my viewers to get it.
Yes. And it's almost like an autobiography, but luckily for us, the man is still alive. So
okay.
Then I think I still have 2 more. I like Morgan Housel's work a lot. He's leaving a few books. The latest one, Same as Ever. So it's almost like a historical, yes, historical account of how some things change, but there's so many things that keep being the same in the history, and how to really realize and recognize those patterns. And when you really look back, you'll be like, okay, yes, you know, it's basically same things, but in a different package.
Form. Okay.
Yes. And last but not the least, another book that I go to regularly is Rolf Dobelli's The Art of Thinking Clearly.
And
the art. Yes,
the art. A-R-T.
Yes.
Okay.
The art of thinking clearly. Yes.
Ooh,
and it's
I like that.
Yes, and it's a book. You know, sometimes you have so many ideas, and you know, you're running a business, and it breaks it down with very contextual examples of actually, you know, how do you think about situations more clearly, and what do you take into considerations, and how do you take your emotions sometimes out from your decision making. So
that's fantastic. I will get that book for myself and my daughters, okay? Because that's one of the things we have two teenage daughters. We talk about this very often.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
How to think clearly. Now, one of the things I tell them when they want to start something, I tell them start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first thing, always think, where am I going?
Yeah.
So that once you know where you're going, everything you do should drive you there.
Yeah.
So that you don't turn left when you're supposed to turn
right. Exactly.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, another question is, I want you to advise young Africans. See, we know that yes, we have a lot of challenges. With challenges mean a lot of opportunities. So, what is your advice to young Africans so that they can contribute their little bit to the society?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to my previous message that at the end of the day, you know, if you are, you know, of, you know, melanated color, you only have one home, and that is Africa, you know, like it or not. And for you to be respected outside, you need to have your home in order. It's just as simple as that. You can avoid it, you know, saying that, you know, whatever happens, it always concerns you. As long as you have African roots, whatever happens in Africa, no matter where you are, where you're hiding, where you escaped to supposedly, it always concerns you. And we see this, you know, you talk to people that haven't been to, you know, their home's country in Africa for 20 years, they are still passionate and still emotional about Africa. It never goes away. It never goes away. So why not do something about it so all of us can have a nicer place that we call home?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, my last question. What is your vision for Africa in the next 20, 30 years' time? Like you talked about, the Chinese plan 50, 100 years ahead.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just planning, I'm asking you to envision Africa in 10, 20, 30 years' time.
Yeah. I think, and I know that Africans have a unique opportunity to leap forward. You know, we have some unique qualities, you know, first of all, you know, having, you know, a fantastic environment, being able to be the food basket of the world. We don't have, you know, major droughts, even though, you know, we have, of course, Sahara Desert, but even that is getting smaller. We have so many young people, so many bright young people that if their power and energy can be harnessed in the right way, there's so much potential, which is completely opposite of what we see in Europe and the US. They're fighting aging population. Meanwhile, there's nothing like that in Africa. And because of the amount of information that is available there, I also see that, we can do leaps in, technological advancements. We don't have to go through the cumbersome ways, but we can actually leap and adopt the best. But what it takes is, decisive leadership, good management of resources, and really passion and commitment for the development of Africa.
Wow. Olu, thank you very much for being a fantastic guest.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yes. Thanks. Bye.